Go to the package manager and click on Unity registry and install the animation rigging system if you haven't already. And then once you have that installed, head over to mixamo.com, pick whatever animation you'd like, and then download that character. If you're using Unity, choose FBX for Unity. Just standard FBX would work as well. You can change the frames per second, but I'll leave it at 30. Once that finishes downloading, bring it into your project and position it on the seat. And then we'll change the animation type to humanoid. And then we'll click apply. If you already have a character, just make sure that the avatar is configured correctly. And now this driving animator is not editable, so you'll have to copy and paste it out of the FBX. That way we can modify it. Once you have that, you'll notice that there still is no animation controller. You can't drag whatever you just created. So we'll just create a placeholder for now. Doesn't matter what you name it. We're going to be deleting that anyway. And then we'll put in our driving animator controller. That's the one that we copied and pasted. Once you're done with that, you can see that it works. You can play it through and then skip to the very end of that animation and then lock it. Once it's locked, we'll go into animation rigging and set up a rig. We'll see that we have one rig automatically created. We'll create a child and we'll name that left hand IK and create a 2-bone IK constraint. Then open up your character model. In the hierarchy, assign the root, mid, and tip as the left arm, left forearm, and left hand. Then we need a target. The target should be a child of the steering wheel, and we'll call that left hand target. And then assign it to the rig 1. And now you'll notice that it doesn't do anything, and that's because the animator has not been initialized. One way to initialize it is to just hit play, let it start up, and it's a little wonky, but that's okay. Now the rig has been initialized into the animator. We can exit out of play mode. And now the left hand target doesn't control anything until you trigger the animator again by moving the animation slider. And now we have control over the left hand and its position. So we'll put it on the left side of the steering wheel, and we can see that we can rotate the steering wheel and the hand follows. Now we'll repeat the process with the right hand. We'll create a second rig, change left hand IK to right hand IK, and we'll assign rig 2 into the rig builder. And you don't need to worry about this error. It's just telling you that there are rigs that are overriding the animation, and that's totally fine. Everything will work. We'll create a right hand target and repeat the process that we did for rig 1 left hand, except we'll change the root, mid, tip to right arm, right forearm, and right hand, and of course the right hand target. Now I'll click on the right hand target and change its X value to negative relative to the left hand. That way we have symmetrical left and right hand targets. And just like before, we can see that we're not able to move the right hand target. That's because, again, you have to initialize the animator. So just hit play. And then exit out of play mode. And we still can't move it, so initialize the animator by moving the slider, and now we have control over the right hand rig. So we'll position that, try to make it make sense. You can move the individual fingers if you really want to, but the player won't notice from where the camera is positioned anyway. It's okay if there's a bit of clipping. And that's pretty much the entire process of rigging the hands to the steering wheel. There are a few things we can do to polish the animation. Let's just start by renaming the character. Now, we'll decouple the steering wheel from the seat point. That way we can move the position of the driver. As you can see, it's a bit too far back because of the animation. So instead of moving the driver itself, we'll move the parent, the seat point, into a position that we like. Enter play mode. We'll drag the driver, create a prefab instance. That way we can modify the prefab because we can't modify the FBX. So once we have a prefab of the driving that you've taken during play mode, we can replace that FBX with the prefab that we made. Now the position makes a lot more sense and it won't shift around after you start the game. And because it's a different prefab, we lost connection to the left hand and right hand targets, so just reassign those to the rigs. And then enter play mode, and you'll notice the character is now in position. They're not moving back or forth because of the animation, and everything still works. Now, for the sake of time, I won't go through the entire script. I know a lot of you have vehicle scripts already that handle steering wheel controls, but here's a quick script where you assign the steering wheel component, and I'll put this in the description so you can use that as a baseline if you'd like. Create a input action, call it steering action. In the action maps, we'll call that steering map. The names really don't matter. And in the action, we'll call it steer. And we'll need to delete that default binding and create a new positive negative binding. And we'll keep the composite type as 1D axis. And for the negative binding, if you're using keyboard, we'll set that to A. And positive, we'll set that to D. So that's the left and right controls for keyboard. And we'll create a new positive negative binding for the gamepad. Again, same thing, 1D axis composite type. And we'll set left stick left to steer left, and the opposite for right. Make sure you save the asset or you won't be able to assign this component. Go into the script, add the steering action, and in my case, just depending on your steering wheel orientation, you might need to invert the direction. And now when we play, I can steer the wheel with keyboard. Here's another example. This one has an extra rig for the stick shift component. It actually has 5 rigs in total. And the first 2 rigs are exactly like before. The left-hand and right-hand targets are on the steering wheel. That's for rig 1 and 2. This one has an addition of rig 2.5, which is the stick target. You can animate the stick in pretty much the same way we've done. You would just write a script to change the weight of that rig so that the driver moves his right hand towards the stick whenever it's time to shift gears. And then you can also animate the left foot and right foot IK and script them to your braking and acceleration logic. It's done in the exact same way that we handle rig 1 and 2, except you would need a script to listen to the acceleration and braking of your vehicle, as well as gear changing. And here's another example. In this case, this driver is supposed to be a little more badass, so he drives with one hand and the right hand just sits on the stick. Doesn't really do anything on the stick hand. It is an automatic car, so I just disabled that rig 2.5. Doesn't really do anything, but it's there in case I need to change the vehicle to manual. If you have any questions, just drop a comment and I'll try my best to respond. If you found this tutorial helpful, like and subscribe, and check out my game called Mad Metal on Steam.